Welcome into the Irish NFL show. We're back here on Radio Row, and I'm delighted to be joined by Sam Monson and Steve Palazzolo from the Check the Mic podcast. Welcoming back Sam Monson. We spoke earlier in the season, so guys, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Steve, we got off to a bad start this morning. I have to admit, I was looking for a window to kind of approach you guys to organise something, and you seem to be busy the first couple of times, so I was circling back. I got my opportunity, and I was going up to you, and I was walking up. I said, "Check the mic, check the mic, check the mic." Walked right up to you and said, "Hey, Mike." So I hope you've forgiven me.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. You got it. You got it in the end, so we're good.
Yeah, absolutely. How has the week been for you so far, guys? What have you been up to?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we got in yesterday. So first of the 24 hours. It's always interesting seeing how each different city, assembles the Radio Row, the media stuff differently. Like the thing this year, I think, is the outside ones that used to just 2 or 3 big sets before. It's way more than this year. Like the outside space of this media row is a lot more heavily populated than it normally is. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
We spoke earlier on in the season, Sam, and ever since I've been keeping an eye on you. I have to say, I said to you, Steve, early on, I really like the tone of your, of what you put out. It's a nice change of pace from the you guys call them the shouty shows,
yeah.
And you're very much fact based and stat based. Given your background as well with PFF and all the work you've done in going into the finer details of of what goes on around the league. We're obviously here to preview the big game that's going on at the weekend. How did we come to the Patriots versus the Seahawks when we were, there was absolutely, these guys were 60-1 outsiders, both of them at the start. I mean, where did we get this novel pairing?
How did we get here, Steve? It's your favorite question.
This is my favorite. Let's go back 4 years when Seattle traded Russell Wilson. I mean, it's funny because he's heard me say this a few times. After the Patriots dominated for so long, I thought there would be like a new era where you had more surprises in the Super Bowl. And then the Chiefs came along and were in every Super Bowl, and they had Mahomes. And the Chiefs having a down year just allowed for other teams to step up and to have just a new look at the rest of the NFL. And, the Patriots being able to turn things around in 1 year with a youth movement, new coach, and a year 2 quarterback in Drake May, who's really come on and lived up to his number 3 overall status. And a team like Seattle, who is, rebuilt from the ground up, made a really aggressive choice to go with Sam Darnold, to, trade DK Metcalf, to bring in Mike McDonald last year, and to get defensive minded and to get his people in year 2 and looking great. So it's like a refreshing season to see different teams in there. And I think it just speaks to the wide open nature of the league. So how did we get here? I think there was a little bit more parity in the league, and some of the powerhouses came back down to earth. And you have things like the kickoff rule that just even the playing field a little bit over the last couple of years. And you're seeing that in a different type of Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, I mentioned that you guys are fact-based, stat-based, and you don't leave anything to chance. You kind of tend to avoid the hyperbole in your analysis. However, I think one of my favorite moments from listening to you guys this season was a week, I think it was where the Steelers played the Ravens, and you were previewing it, and it was all of the reasons that the Ravens should have beaten, should have wiped the floor with the Steelers. But then you came back to, but the Steelers are going to win just because it's the Steelers, and just because. So sometimes you do have to feel it out.
Yeah. Well, they're the only team where you can do that with, where it's like, look, there's 15 reasons that it should go one way, but it's the Steelers, and Mike Tomlin has these weird records. So of course the Steelers are going to find a way.
Was it a Monday night game as well, or something like that?
Yeah, we said, like, you could have predicted the last 5 weeks of their season, like, in advance without looking at it, just knowing the things that Tomlin always wins or loses, and the fact that they won this game and they dropped this game. Like, they're the only team where you could have called their entire run in from way ahead.
And as analytically minded as we are,
drives you nuts.
Well, then you realize it's humans playing the game, and there's human element to it, and the motivational aspect of it. And Mike Tomlin was so fascinating because he did have these trends, which you could say are statistical trends, but he did tend to get teams to play up at times and down at other times. And there was like kind of a roller coaster ride, but somewhat predictable, but also unpredictable at the same. Unpredictable within the course of the season, but predictable over the course of multiple seasons, which made him so fascinating as a coach.
Yeah. It was an interesting season, if not they didn't quite hit the heights that they may have, but it was an interesting season with the Steelers nonetheless. I mean, we had great fun with them coming to Ireland as well. So it was a team that I think everyone bought into in Ireland for the throughout the season. This our experience here on Radio Row is brought to you in association as well with Dunes and Drams, dunesanddrams.com for your luxury bespoke golf and whiskey tours of Ireland. So guys, next time you're coming back to Ireland, Sam, Dunes and Drams is your place to go. www.dunesanddrams.com. Just getting into the X's and O's this weekend, like the Seahawks, should I say, they started out all guns blazing. They were one of the most lethal teams downfield, and then that kind of dropped off. That part of their playbook seemed to drop off for the latter half of the season, but we saw it in all its glory in the NFC Championship game. Obviously, that's what they're going to look to go back to. That's what fans will be hoping to see. Sam Darnold, slinging it down to the likes of JSN. And again, to counter that, obviously Mike Vrabel and co are going to be looking to counter that. What do you see as the keys to victory for both teams, Sam?
I think the Seahawks offense is now very well rounded. I think earlier in the season, I think JSN took a lot of people by surprise. Everyone knew he was a great slot receiver. Everyone knew he was a great route runner. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, DK Metcalf isn't here anymore. Also, he can run down the field from the outside. And I think that caused a lot of problems. Then teams got a little bit better at taking him away. Now they're having to move him around a lot more to get him to the same kind of open looks. But this offense, I think, can hurt you everywhere. I think generally one of the biggest things is how are the Patriots going to try and take away JSN? It's not as easy as some other receivers. They move him around a lot. They'll put him in the backfield. It's not as simple as just saying, all right, Gonzalez, and we'll roll a safety. It's hard. They're going to make you work to take him away and to dedicate extra help to him. And then the flip side, I think the left side of that Patriots offensive line, can they hold up against the Seahawks defensive line? Can they give Drake May the kind of time that he's going to need to make those downfield throws or to make the big plays that he's capable of making?
And on the other side of the ball, the Seahawks defense is the they're the unit that have gained all the plaudits. I mean, and rightfully so. I mean, they've been incredible. But Josh McDaniels has been here before, and he's probably nobody on either roster or in any organization involved this weekend has more experience than Josh McDaniels in scheming something up. How does he approach this? You mentioned well-rounded defense. With I'm a big Nick Emanwari fan, and what he can do to just completely shut down the middle, to allow the corners just go man to man. How does Josh McDaniels scheme for that, Sam?
So it's going to be interesting.
Steve, sorry, I've done it again.
It's all good. It's the S's. The McDaniels in the big games. I mean, first off, I think there'll be a couple trick plays in there.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna I called it on Tomorrow's Show. Really.
Yeah.
A non-traditional flea flicker, right? He had a flea flicker in the AFC Championship. He'll have something dialed up to create a big play. I'm interested to see, because they used to do this with Brady. If they couldn't run the ball on paper before the game, they would just come out throwing. They wouldn't even try. And on paper, it's going to be really tough for the Patriots to get the run game going. Now, other times they felt like they had an advantage and they would run the ball a lot. So I'm interested to see if they just put the ball in Drake May's hands early, spread him out, dink and dunk down the field, even though it's a challenge thrown against Seattle. I wonder if that's one way to protect the offensive line and get the ball out of May's hands.
It's interesting. Like they're, two new teams effectively in the Super Bowl in terms of, obviously they've both been there before, but a long time ago. All the Super Bowl experience in the game is on the Patriots coaching staff. It's Vrabel and McDaniel.
Yeah.
You mentioned coaching staff then, and not to get too far ahead of this weekend, but I mean, Clint Kubiak and the scheme that he's drawn up as the OC for the Seahawks, that's going to be lost next year, and they're going to have to rebuild with somebody else. I always talk about how much of a pity it is that they don't lock these coordinators into a genuine 2, 3, 4 year cycle just to keep what they have. You looked at how the Lions kind of, I won't say fell apart, but they had to rebuild off the back of losing their both coordinators this season. How much do you think that's going to affect them going forward in losing such a cog in there?
It's become such an important part of the game where, like, you have to start. I mean, you hear it when head coaches are being hired now. It's like, not just what is the coaching staff that you're going to assemble now, what's the coaching staff going to look like when those guys get hired away? Like, you now need 2 or 3 generations of coaching pathway, because the second you're good, they're gone. Like, the second you're good, your coordinators are both going to get poached, if not in the same season, then one after the other. And you need the succession plan to try and keep it going. And sometimes there's no way of knowing, right? You have a guy earmarked, the QB coach steps into the OC role, and he's just not the same.
Yeah.
And it's just not as good. And you have to move in a different direction after a year. I think it's a really important part of the game now.
Yeah, and I think it's I think it's such a shame as well how these awesome coordinators, it's almost an automatic that they have to leave and go find a head coaching role, because that's the only next, that's the natural progression for their career, even though you've seen multiple examples of guys who were just unbelievable coordinators and very poor to terrible head coaches. Like we saw and I'm not saying that in the long term Aaron Glenn is going to prove to be a bad head coach or a poor head coach, but early indications are not great. We saw the kind of the polar opposites of how his first season went versus Ben Johnson. Okay, and I'm just looking around at this coaching carousel. You've got the up and coming coordinator Mike LaFleur getting a head coaching job. You've got Joe Brady going back to his former team in the Bills. Again, we looked at Johnson and Glenn last year. You've got the coach looking for his second shot in Salah. You've got the old vet going back to New York in John Harbaugh. So early prediction, who's your biggest boom and who's your biggest bust on that coaching carousel next season, Sam?
I think the easiest one to see a pathway to them being very good next year is the Giants. I think there was a lot of pieces in place this year, and a lot of them got hurt. I don't think they were as bad as a lot of the bad teams this year. I think their record is worse than they actually were. And then obviously Harbaugh's got a really good record as a head coach. Like even this year, the disappointing year, the year that broke the camel's back, they were still fine. It's not like they collapsed and they were, a 2-win team or whatever. I think the Giants will be good next year. So they would be the most obvious boom one. I guess the bust, it's hard to see Arizona being good in a hurry. I know they've added some talent. Again, some of that was injured this year and that'll come back, but the quarterback situation is up in the air. A lot needs to happen, I think, for that team to become good.
Yeah, that's Mike LaFleur, isn't it? Yeah. And are you on the same?
I agree with the Giants have an opportunity with John Harbaugh. I'm interested in the Titans and Robert Saleh. I was really impressed with what he did with the Niners.
Yeah.
With so little talent, with all the big names getting injured there, and still having a competent defense. And it's really, it's just like some of the old Jets quarterbacks will go to other places and have success. A former Jets head coach who's in an up and down situation where they just never really had a good quarterback and now has the opportunity to build around Cam Ward. Big year in free agency for the Titans, a lot of draft picks. So I'm interested in Saleh going to Tennessee. Okay.
Finally, so guys, this week, Nick on the line, who are you going for?
I've been saying I think the Seahawks win, but I think it's a closer game than the line. I think they win but the Patriots cover the spread.
We've heard and we've spoken about it on the show before. We've heard there's a school of thought that if the Patriots are going to keep it close, it's going to have to be a kind of a boring, low-scoring game.
Yeah.
Do you see it playing out that way, Steve? Or how do you see it going?
I think it's really. The Seahawks have not given up a lot of points except against the Rams. In the last 8 weeks, it's like 10 points a game. It's nothing. And so I think it's really tough to win in a shootout against them. Not impossible because the Rams have showed it to at least play a shootout and put a lot of points on the board. But yeah, I think a lower scoring game. New England's defense is playing great football right now. So I think we'll get some answers. Is that the weather? Is that the fact that they're playing in tough conditions in New England and then in Denver the first 3 weeks? Or are they for real? But I think their defense might fly a little under the radar because we're talking so much about Seattle. So I agree, close game here.
Yeah. Before I let you go as well, Sam, I know you're a big rugby jersey guy on your show, and I've said, I'm a Munster fan. I've seen your Leinster jerseys more often. Haven't seen you in a Munster jersey yet. What about a GA jersey? If we can get a GA jersey to you,
I never. So
do I need to wear it?
We can get you. We can sort you both out. We'll get you both sorted.
I only played one time. A friend of mine that I used to play soccer with on Saturdays. He was big into GAA. And there was like a charity blitz for a friend of his that had broken his leg or something. He was like, come on, everyone will come down. We'll play. It'll be great. You don't need to know how to play. It's fine. And so we all went down and we were the only people there that weren't like members of a GAA club. And I can't pick the ball up. I can't do the,
you got to put your foot under it. Yeah.
I can't do it. So I would just dribble the ball down the wing and cross it in. It's technically legal, but extremely frowned upon. So it didn't go well. I'm not a big guy. You
were playing the foreign sport. We won't even talk about hurling. So if that's football, guys, I appreciate you coming on. Enjoy the week.
Anytime.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.